There are many places on our planet with surprising realities, but few are as extreme and confusing as this one. A country where the law allows for mandatory virginity testing. They accept polygamy as a means of survival, condone the kidnapping of women to make them wives, and even ban Christmas. In this video, we travel to Tajikistan, a mysterious land where mountains seem to touch the sky. One of the most dramatic, hidden, and forgotten corners of the planet. A country that you probably didn't know existed due to its location in one of the most remote and inaccessible regions, with a forbidden and often deadly border that is considered by many to be the most dangerous on Earth. But it is also a magical land home to the world's tallest dam and filled with natural wonders that will take your breath away. With giant mountains made of salt, one of the highest roads on Earth dubbed the top of the world, legendary lakes, and even millennia-old ruins that have led many to call it the Pompeii of Central Asia. A country that seems to have come straight out of a fantasy world ruled by a president who not only amended the constitution to be re-elected indefinitely, but also made it mandatory to hang his portrait in people's homes. In this country, the fashion for wearing gold teeth coexists with laws prohibiting crying or excessive displays of grief at funerals. And yet, the police have even organized real manhunts to forcefully shave thousands of men's beards. Get ready to learn about the country that many consider the strangest on the planet. Pay attention and don't miss this video. Very soon you will be traveling with us through perhaps one of the least explored places on Earth. Here we go. Located in the remote heart of Central Asia, Tajikistan is one of the least known and least visited countries on the planet, a trait that also makes it one of the strangest countries on Earth. Nestled between the majestic Pamir and Hindu Kush mountain ranges, its territory stretches like a maze of endless mountains, from the arid borders of Uzbekistan and Afghanistan to the hidden valleys bordering China and the steppes of Kyrgyzstan. Nestled in one of the most rugged and wild regions on Earth, Tajikistan is a country that many people cannot locate on a map. Yet behind its borders lies a world forgotten by time, where villages seem to be suspended in another century, where traditions resist the march of modernity and roads wind through dangerous yet enchanting mountain passes. A region where the landscape can be both beautiful and deadly, where crossing from one valley to another can mean facing extreme temperatures, blizzards, or roads blocked by avalanches. Frontiers where nature is not the only threat, as you will soon discover in more detail. With an area of approximately 144,000 kilometers, Tajikistan has an estimated population of 10 million. The population density is exceptionally low, as it encompasses a mountainous and inhospitable territory, with almost the entire population concentrated in valleys and small towns. The official language is Tajik, a variant of Persian, although Russian is also widely spoken due to the historical influence of the Soviet Union. There are also ethnic minorities who speak Uzbek, Kyrgyz, and other languages reflecting the country's ethnic diversity. As you can see, Tajikistan's geography is dominated by the huge mountains that cover more than 90% of its territory. The Pamir and Alay mountain ranges stretch across the country, with peaks exceeding 7,000 meters, such as Ismail Somoni, formerly known as Communist Peak, which reaches 7,445 meters and is Tajikistan's highest point. These mountains are natural barriers that have isolated entire communities for centuries. These obstacles have a lot to do with some of the most impressive architectural feats in the country and the world, like the famous Tunnel of Death, or the dam that is about to become the tallest dam on the planet. The tunnel, known locally as the Anzab Tunnel, or the Death Tunnel, is one of Tajikistan's most iconic yet terrifying pieces of infrastructure. Measuring over 5 kilometers in length, it is located about 80 kilometers from the capital Dushanbe and connects it to the city of Kujand. Its construction was crucial to bypassing Uzbekistan and facilitating internal transport, especially during the harsh winters. But conditions inside the tunnel have always been dangerous, with lack of ventilation, poor lighting, and water accumulation, causing numerous accidents and cementing its dark nickname. In addition to the tunnel, Tajikistan also has the Rogan Dam, which will become the tallest dam in the world in the coming years, with a projected height of 335 meters. We will soon go into the details of this impressive dam and also explore why Tajikistan's border with Afghanistan is considered by many to be one of the most dangerous on Earth. But before diving into these topics, it is interesting to learn some curiosities about the inhabitants of this small corner of the world, whose lives are deeply influenced by this extreme and inaccessible location. Surviving among some of the coldest and largest mountains on the planet is no easy task. As you can imagine, life here is full of challenges, and the customs of the Tajik people reflect this harsh environment. In fact, one of the most surprising practices of the country is that polygamy, which was allowed for centuries, is still present and even common today in some areas of the country, mainly in rural areas. The reasons behind this trend are related to the difficult living conditions and the unique social dynamics of the region. Being able to have multiple wives is seen here as a survival strategy. The mass migration of young men in search of work left many women without economic support at home. In many rural areas, women saw polygamy as a way to provide for themselves and their children, as well as to ensure they had more children to care for these difficult lands. Some women became second or third wives in informal religious marriages, accepting the practice as a way to survive economically in an area where opportunities were limited. Tajikistan is considered by many to be one of the strangest countries on the planet due to some of its customs and laws. One of the most controversial concerns the mandatory virginity tests introduced in 2015. These tests, which are required before marriage, are justified on the grounds of preventing sexually transmitted diseases. However, many voices both inside and outside Tajikistan have pointed out that these practices violate women's basic rights. Human rights organizations have sharply criticized these tests, arguing that they represent a form of control over women's private lives and personal decisions, restricting their autonomy and dignity. But this is not the only controversial practice in this remote country, where the Tajik government imposes controls on the dress and lifestyle of its citizens. These controls, which include restrictions on both women and men, are part of a series of measures aimed at strengthening a national identity that, according to authorities, is more in line with the country's traditional values. Restrictions on women's dress prohibit the use of certain traditional Islamic garments, such as the Islamic headscarf, known as the hijab, because they are against any form of radical expression, but also ban Western clothing deemed indecent, such as miniskirts, tight pants, and even sandals. Although authorities insist that these policies are aimed at promoting a more unified national cultural identity, many see them as a form of control over women and their personal freedoms. In addition to restrictions on dress, the government has imposed restrictions on religious practices, despite the majority of the population being Muslim. Among the most prominent restrictions are limits on men growing beards on the hijab and on participating in public activities related to Islam, such as Ramadan and pilgrimages. The restrictions are so dramatic that in 2016, police carried out an operation in which they shaved thousands of bearded men on the grounds that such styles could be associated with religious extremism. These measures, although intended to curb what the government sees as the threat of extremism, have increased social and political tensions, especially among those who see them as a form of control over private life and religion. In this country of contrasts, where the struggle for survival in one of the harshest terrains on the planet is taking place, people are practicing practices that many would consider unimaginable, such as kidnapping women to make them wives, and other astonishing facts that you will learn about later. Because now we will learn about the highest dam and the most dangerous border pass on the planet. What you already know is not even the most strange or remarkable. The Rogan Dam is located on the Vaksh River, a massive structure that is crucial to the country's energy independence, as it will generate the majority of the electricity the country needs. The completion of the dam is scheduled for 2029, and its success is crucial to the country's economic development and energy needs, largely due to the extreme climatic conditions in the region, with areas considered to be some of the coldest and harshest on the planet. In Tajikistan, winters are long and harsh, with temperatures that can drop below 40 degrees Celsius. Rainfall is scarce in some areas, while others, such as the Fedchenko Glacier, receive more than 2 meters of snowfall each year. These conditions have shaped the lives of the people who have developed ways of living that are adapted to this harsh environment. To get around, for example, in addition to having to use extreme tunnels like the Death Tunnel, they also use one of the most iconic routes through these mountains, the Pamir Highway, also known as the M41. This road, which connects the capital Dushanbe in Tajikistan with Osh in Kyrgyzstan, is one of the highest roads in the world, reaching an altitude of over 4,600 meters at the Akbaital Pass. Maintaining it is a challenge due to erosion, landslides, and frequent earthquakes, making it one of the most dangerous routes for travelers. But if there is one truly dangerous and inaccessible place in Tajikistan, beyond the dangers of these mountains and roads, it is the country's border with Afghanistan, specifically in the Wakhan corridor area, which many consider the most dangerous border on Earth. This narrow strip of Afghan territory was created in the 19th century by a geopolitical agreement between the British Empire and the Russian Empire, with the aim of preventing their territories from directly converging and causing tension or war. The Wakhan corridor is a natural wall formed by peaks over 7,000 mm high, deep gorges, glaciers, and melting glaciers. It is one of the least populated and least accessible regions in the world, where for part of the year, snow and ice block its border passes. There are no regular border crossings in most of the region, except for a few isolated spots like Iskashim in Tajikistan. Most of the roads are dirt roads or outright donkey trails used by local traders, nomadic caravans, and sadly also by smugglers and traffickers. Despite its isolation, the border is patrolled by Tajik and Russian guards due to its proximity to smuggling routes for drugs, weapons, and more recently, extremist fighters fleeing Afghanistan. In addition to all this, this is not a normal border, but a boundary of geopolitical interests of Persian and Turkic cultures, of religions, and of economic realities. If you cross directly from Afghanistan to China passing through Tajikistan, you will have to adjust your watch by no less than 3.5 hours. This is the largest direct time difference between two contiguous territories in the world. This border passes through some of the highest and most inhospitable mountains on the planet, the Pamir and Hindu Kush ranges. Because of all this, avalanches, blizzards, hidden glaciers, unstable roads, and passes blocked by ice often make it impassable even in summer. Winter temperatures can drop below 50 degrees Celsius in some spots, and at very high altitudes, lack of oxygen can cause altitude sickness even in experienced explorers. Because of all this, at the Wakhan corridor border, whether trying to cross it by road or by vehicle, nature can be deadly or worse than a war zone. In addition to everything you already know, this is a hot zone in terms of military surveillance and smuggling. Drug smuggling, because it is part of the famous opium route, a place that starts in Afghanistan and makes tons of this and other substances cross Central Asia through this border every year, many times transported by illegal caravans. It is believed that many people also escape from neighboring countries through these areas, places that are also frequented by extremist groups, an area where thousands of anti-personnel mines are still hidden under the snow or soil due to recent civil wars. That is why crossing this border without knowledge is playing with your life, whether there are bullets flying or not. Although the border may seem quiet on a map, it is in fact one of the hottest spots not only in Tajikistan, but on the planet. A place that is definitely good to know about, so you can try to avoid it on a possible trip to this remote region. Come on, and before we get to know the most impressive places and the craziest bands that take place here, we take the opportunity to ask you, if one day you traveled through Tajikistan, would you dare to cross the Wakhan corridor? How would you feel if they checked if you were still a virgin? What clothes would you wear, or dozens of policemen chased you on the street with the intention of shaving your beard? What impressed you the most about this incredible country? Pause the video and leave your comment. Doing so is the best way for you to help the channel so that we can continue working every week to bring you interesting content like this. Thinking about the wonders of this country, a trip to Tajikistan would not be complete without visiting Lake Iskanderkul, considered one of the most sought-after and photographed natural destinations in the region. This turquoise lake, surrounded by peaks over 3,000 meters high, is located in the heart of the Fan Mountains and is one of the most impressive landscapes in all of Central Asia. Its name is shrouded in legend, as Iskanderkul means Alexander's Lake, referring to Alexander the Great, who is said to have passed through these lands during his military campaigns, and whose horse, according to tradition, drowned in these waters. Apart from this lake, Tajikistan also has extraordinary natural phenomena, such as mountains made entirely of salt. These formations are called Kojamuman Mountains, located near the city of Kulob, and are one of the most unusual landscapes in the region. At first glance, they look like ordinary rocky hills or rock formations, but in fact, they are giant salt masses that emerged from underground millions of years ago, shaped by geological pressure and erosion, by wind and rain. The reason for their existence is that in ancient times, the region was covered by huge inland seas that, when evaporated, left behind huge salt deposits in the underground layers. Over time, the pressure of the earth has caused these salt masses to rise to the surface to form real mountains of white and gray, which on sunny days seem to sparkle as if covered in snow, creating an almost unreal landscape. Extraordinary facts, such as the strangeness of the country's president, are also part of Tajikistan's unique character. The man who has led this mountainous nation for decades is Emomali Rahmon, who has been president since 1994, and whose image has created one of the most prominent and strange cults of personality in Central Asia. Rahmon, who started out as a collective farm director during the Soviet era, consolidated his power after the civil war that rocked Tajikistan in its early years of independence. Since then, he has not only ruled the country with an iron fist, but has shaped an entire system where his image and name have become symbols of power. His cult of personality is visible in every corner of the country. His portraits hang in public offices, schools, shops, and even private homes. His speeches are broadcast constantly on state media, and any national event often revolves around his character achievements or words. One of the most notable curiosities about Rahmon is that in 2015 he officially changed his surname and that of his children, dropping the Russian suffix "ov" to adopt a more purely Tajik form. He himself has thus become known from Emomali Ramonov to simply Emomali Rahmon, and he has encouraged the entire population to do the same as part of a policy of asserting a national identity away from its Soviet roots. In addition, he has amended the constitution several times to ensure the right to be re-elected indefinitely. And in one of those reforms, it even removed the minimum age limit for his son to run for president in the near future, thus cementing the possibility of establishing a family dynasty. Rahmon was also the protagonist of some striking, almost bizarre acts. Among them, the most notable was the erection of a giant national flag on a 165-meter-high flagpole, the tallest flagpole in the world, with its flag flying majestically over the capital Dushanbe. This symbol was not only intended to commemorate Tajikistan's independence, but also to project the image of a strong and united nation under his leadership. A president as strange as a dictator, Tajikistan has become a land of unusual laws, many of which are almost absurd and have aroused the curiosity of tourists and journalists. From restrictions on clothing or rules on purity before marriage that you already know to even more surprising ones, such as banning the celebration of Christmas or even restricting the way people can express their grief at funerals. In Tajikistan, public celebrations have been subject to strict control. Authorities have mandated that celebrations such as birthdays, weddings, or even gatherings to celebrate Christmas must be held only in a family environment. Large public celebrations are prohibited, and in case of non-compliance, people face significant fines. But the crazy rules don't stop there, as even in moments of extreme grief like funerals, the government dictates how citizens should behave. Loud crying, excessive wailing, or displays of extreme grief like pulling hair or hiring mourners are all completely banned. Funerals in Tajikistan cannot last more than 3 days, and wearing black during that time is considered to go against the state's rules of calm and restraint. This level of control over emotions and private life even extends to religious celebrations where authorities regulate the number of attendees, the duration, and even the manner in which the ceremonies are performed. All in the name of protecting public order and avoiding any appearance of fanaticism or loss of collective control. As you can see, Tajikistan is not only impressive in terms of climate and mountains, but also in terms of its strange rules for living and even crying. In a few minutes, I will tell you the best way to get to and travel to this country, which in addition to being one of the cheapest and most amazing destinations in Central Asia, is also one of the least explored. But before that, let's take a look at the gold tooth fad and what many consider the country's best-kept secret, the mysterious ruins of Panjakent. Deep in the harsh, high mountains of Tajikistan lie these ruins, one of the most fascinating and least known archaeological sites in the world. A place that has been nicknamed the Pompeii of Central Asia because, like the famous Roman city Panjakent, was frozen in time after a sudden destruction that allowed its temples, houses, and frescoes to be hidden and protected under layers of debris for centuries. As a result, archaeologists have been able to excavate the perfectly preserved ruins, providing a unique window into everyday life in the region before the spread of Islam. The most amazing thing about Panjakent is its frescoes and structures, which reveal in incredible detail the lifestyle, customs, and beliefs of a nearly forgotten civilization. In Panjakent, frescoes representing scenes of feasts, religious ceremonies, and battles have been found, in addition to temples dedicated to ancient gods and houses that still retain their original layout. Although no petrified human remains have been found like in Pompeii, the level of preservation of these artifacts and frescoes makes Panjakent a unique place to understand life in this ancient city before the arrival of Islam. More than likely, some archaeologists in the area have hoped to find the most precious material on Earth, gold, among the ruins of Panjakent. Especially since a few years ago in Tajikistan, the use of teeth made of this material was a trend. This fashion began to gain popularity due to the influence of local cultural traditions and the social status that gold represents. Interestingly, this fashion is not only a symbol of wealth, but also of longevity, as in Tajikistan. It is believed that having gold teeth brings protection, strength, and good health. With some communities seeing these gold teeth as a lucky charm, something that blends with the ancestral beliefs of the region. Gold throughout history has been considered a symbol of wealth and power. And this custom of wearing gold teeth also became a way to show prosperity, especially in urban areas. Although today this practice has declined, it is still a tradition in some areas of this exotic and beautiful country. With all that you have discovered about this fascinating corner of the planet, it is only natural that you would wonder how to get to and enjoy Tajikistan to the fullest. That is why we have taken the time to thoroughly research everything you need to know to explore this mysterious and charming country. To travel from Europe or America, there are a number of options. From Europe, you can fly to Dushanbe, the capital of Tajikistan, with connecting flights via airlines such as Turkish Airlines or Aeroflot, which always have connecting flights via Moscow. From America, the most popular option is to fly to a major European hub such as Istanbul, then connect to Dushanbe. Once there, the main means of transport in the country is by road, and there are taxis and local buses that will take you to the main cities and attractions. However, it is important to be aware of some of the dangers of traveling in the country. As you may know, the border with Afghanistan is known to be one of the most dangerous borders not only in the region, but in the world, and you should avoid this area at all costs. You should also be cautious when traveling through the Tunnel of Death, a dangerous tunnel that, although picturesque, has been a site of accidents and mishaps for travelers. Additionally, there are a number of high mountain routes that, although offering breathtaking scenery, are known for their dangerous conditions, so it is important to always take precautions before traveling through these places. Despite these risks, Tajikistan is one of the cheapest and most impressive countries in all of Central Asia, making it an ideal destination for budget travelers. A cup of coffee in a local cafe will usually cost less than $1, while dinner for two can cost between $10 and $15. As for accommodation, a night in a modest hotel will cost around $20, and if you're looking for something more luxurious, prices usually won't exceed $50. As for safety, although Tajikistan is generally safe for tourists, it's always a good idea to stay informed about local conditions, avoid border or conflict areas, and travel with a partner if possible. Every trip has its uses, so our exploration trip ends here. If you want to continue exploring countries like Russia, Uzbekistan, Finland, or small countries in Southeast Asia like Vietnam, Philippines, Laos, Thailand, visit our channel to learn interesting things in other countries. Because YouTube prioritizes videos with many likes. If you find this video interesting, please click like to leave comments and share them with your loved ones so that our YouTube channel can grow. And from there will be the motivation for us to create more interesting and attractive videos about countries. Now goodbye, and see you again in the next videos. Sincerely thank you, and see you again.